This is a Seat Malaga, a sedan sold by Seat in the 80s and early 90s throughout Europe, including the United Kingdom.
The Seat Malaga. It's everything you imagined.
Well, now, about 40 years later, every single one of those right-hand drive UK models has gone extinct. With this very car here purportedly being the last one, sitting in a car graveyard after experiencing an engine fire. So the UK spec Seat Malaga is a car that has gone extinct. But the Malaga itself isn't completely gone. You can readily find them across different countries. So this isn't what I'm looking for. I want to find an entire nameplate that, with the passage of time, has simply ceased to exist, even if it is just one generation of a long-standing model lineage, for example. I'm also not talking about concept cars, race cars, prototypes, kit cars, or the like. Those get destroyed or just disappear all the time. Not to mention they're often extremely limited in terms of how many were actually made in the first place. What I'm looking for is something mass-produced. So, sorry but no Glenn Frome Ashton in this discussion. Unfortunately though, public records are often either non-existent or they're wildly unreliable, so trying to find proof of something not existing anymore is about as easy as time traveling. So instead, let's start off with a public case of an automaker attempting to make their own production car non-existent. Seeing the onslaught of these new minivans taking over the American market in the 80s, Nissan threw their hat into the ring by launching the Nissan van, not to be confused with its fiercest rivals, the Toyota van or the Mitsubishi van. Nissan's van was an imported Nissan Vanette with a few cosmetic changes, luxurious trim, and a bigger engine, a 2.4-liter straight four lifted from the hardbody truck that was only available on this US market model. And this more powerful engine was definitely necessary to match the needs of American buyers. As MotorWeek said,
that translates to a 0 to 60 time of 19 seconds. We call slow, embarrassingly slow.
Oh. Well, regardless, the engine may still have been underpowered, but at least it didn't also catch fire, leading to 4 recalls and a massive lawsuit against Nissan. Yeah, sorry, that's exactly what happened. Overheating engines led to many fires, and eventually Nissan realized it would just be cheaper to buy back every van that was sold and destroy them than to attempt to fix every single one. A total of about 33,000 vans were sold across just 3 years, and Nissan managed to destroy most of them. Most of them. A few brave souls kept on to their vans, perhaps willingly or without knowledge of the buyback program. Nissan vans are known to resurface from time to time, so despite being destined for extinction, a few of them are most likely still out there. This is a starting point. Perhaps Chrysler misunderstood what it meant when someone told them that the Japanese enjoy buying K cars, because during the mid-80s they attempted to sell their K car platform Dodge Aries in the Japanese market as the Dodge Michigan. A notoriously hard market to crack, they nevertheless gave it a shot, and for it they should have been shot. Notable differences to the original car include the addition of side indicators and completely redesigned rear lights. They did not, however, convert it to right-hand drive. Most of our info about this car comes from original sales brochures. Any other sources are essentially non-existent. That's not to say we don't have any proof of Michigan's existence. Look, it's right there. We also have a couple of images of the car itself, and it's evident that it was seen on the streets of Japan at some point, as the car was featured, with visible Michigan badging, in multiple episodes of the anime City Hunter. I hope he found those cities he was looking for. Here we appear to see a chick and a jock kidnapping her. That's good advertising. The last sighting I'm aware of, however, was around 20 years ago, when one car popped up for auction. Anything beyond that is a complete mystery, which also makes it a mystery whether there are any Dodge Michigans left or not. A brochure and a couple of pictures unfortunately do not give us the full picture, and even basic details like how many were sold or for how long are unknown. If only there was another market-specific sedan from the 80s that did have rather definitive proof of its eventual demise. In 1976, British and Japanese carmakers associations agreed to limit the market share of Japanese cars in the United Kingdom to 11%, meaning that Japanese manufacturers would only be allowed to sell enough cars to take up 11% of the UK car market. No more than that.
Now, the Japanese don't sell a lot of cars in Britain yet, so this is a trickle that could soon become a menacing flood.
Surprisingly, the dealers selling those Japanese imports were not happy about this agreement and looked for ways to bypass it. The first attempt began in 1982 when Mitsubishi's UK distributor, Gold Car Company, headed by Michael Orr, introduced Lonsdale to be sold alongside Mitsubishi's in dealerships. The Lonsdale cars were simply rebadged Mitsubishi Sigmas imported from their factory in Australia, not Japan. This is how they circumvented the 11% gentleman's agreement, as 80% of every Lonsdale would be sourced from and built down under. The Lonsdale lineup would be launched later that year, being present at motor shows, and would receive a fair bit of advertising, leaning heavily into the car's Australian origins. With this, a target was set of importing 3,600 cars in 1982, 6,000 cars the next year, and then doubling to 12,000 cars the year after that. There would be two models offered, a sedan and a station wagon with three engine options, a 1.6-liter, a 2.0 and a 2.6-liter inline-4, one of the highest displacement four-cylinder engines ever offered. Now, I've seen conflicting info on what these models were actually called. Some sources use the name Lonsdale YD41. Elsewhere, though, I've seen Lonsdale Satellite being used, including at the car's launch. Mostly, however, they were referred to as Lonsdale 1.6, 2.0 and 2.6 respectively, and I believe this is what they were actually called. Where YD41 and YD45 come from, I have no idea. Regardless, the stage was set for the Lonsdale. Let's check in a few years to see how these sales goals fared. By the end of 1983, the plan was to sell about 10,000 cars. This is what they managed. Not good. As they began to realize the Lonsdale brand wasn't taking off, nor was it going to take off, the marque was quietly discontinued and any remaining stock was rebadged to Mitsubishi's. Seeing that so few were sold and knowing the likelihood of Lonsdales not being very well protected from rust, it's not hard to see how these cars started disappearing as quickly as they had appeared. Many of them were scrapped during the 80s and 90s, and it is entirely plausible that not a single Lonsdale made it into the 21st century. But we can all hope. That's what members of the Autoshite forums have bet on, and they've done some excellent research into trying to track a single Lonsdale down, but with no luck. Looking through official government databases, you will find Lonsdales listed, however these do not match up with what we actually know about the cars in question. All we have to hope for is the continued existence of a Lonsdale wearing the license plate TDF565Y. On the DVLA's website, it's listed as being off the road. Submitting a statutory off-road notification has to be done annually, and there is no reason to do so when the car itself no longer exists. So that's good news, right? There is clearly one Lonsdale still sitting somewhere out there. Yeah, well, no, probably not. People much smarter than me have theorized that this classification is most likely a glitch in the large and incredibly messy database. Despite offering us a glimmer of hope, DDF565Y is also most likely long gone. Meaning that the Lonsdale is long gone. A car offered in one of the largest car markets in the world, nobody will ever get to drive a Lonsdale again. I really hope I'm proven wrong. And with that, thank you so much to all channel members, including everyone who has joined recently, including Turklinen or Taktarihi, Superio, Rocky Gaming, Subceltra, Burakosen111, Chills Doge, Anna Arambasic, Aliskis, Thinky Think, Denny Disher, Drusky, and Moises Palacio.